experiencing this or have friends or family who are, know where to go for resources. The Victim Advocacy Program through Disability Rights Wisconsin is a program that works with victims of crime with disabilities. You can be any age, any disability, and any crime, even if it's not something that happened right now or something that you want to report to police. We still can support you, get you connected to resources, find some local resources that you might need, whatever that might look like for you. So for an example, if somebody's experienced domestic violence or caregiver abuse, like we're going to talk about today, if they want to call either a local resource, which we'll talk a little bit about that later, or Disability Rights Wisconsin, and say that they need assistance, we will do an intake. We will talk with them a little more about what their needs are, and then we will look to see if there's things that we can do to help them, and assign an advocate to work with them and help them through whatever process or get connected to whatever services they might need. And then as far as us doing these videos, the National Disability Rights Network, which is a network of all protection and advocacy agencies, like in Wisconsin, it is Disability Rights Wisconsin. They contacted us and asked us, as in the Victim Advocacy Program, and asked if we would be interested in putting together a short video about domestic violence. And they would use it during the time of COVID to make sure that people were getting information and resources if they found themselves in a situation that they needed assistance. And part of that conversation that we had talked about what they wanted to look for, and then we also suggested that we do a caregiver video, because I think that during this time of isolation, it's difficult to call out somebody who is abusing you, or it's difficult sometimes to identify what that is, or we're afraid maybe that we're going to lose them and then not have any caregiver. And that's really challenging during any time, but especially when you're so isolated. So they agreed to let us do the other video as well. So I'm excited for us to watch both of them today.
Excellent. I think we'll get started with the first video. Caitlin's gonna bring that up for us. Hopefully we'll have no technology glitches.
Hi, I'm Pam.
And I'm Nadja. We work at Disability Rights Wisconsin with people with disabilities who have also been victims of domestic violence. You know, Pam, I've been thinking a lot about victims of domestic violence with disabilities recently. Many of us have been told to stay at home because we're trying to stop the spread of coronavirus. But for people who are victims of domestic violence and they're living with their abuser, staying at home can be very dangerous and scary.
Oh, that seems confusing. What is domestic violence?
Well, domestic violence happens when one person in the relationship uses their own power to control the other person. And that control can take many different forms. Some are easier to identify than others. So one form of violence that's very easy to recognize is physical violence. And that can take the form of either physical or sexual violence. Physical violence means hitting, pushing, shoving. Sexual violence being forcing someone to have sex, touching someone when they don't want to be touched, or being told that you have to have sex with your partner even though you don't want to, because otherwise something bad's going to happen.
Another form could be economic abuse. It could be when somebody takes control of your money, or somebody puts you on an allowance, or doesn't allow you any access to your money. And that isn't okay when they do that to take your money away.
Another form can be minimizing, denying, or blaming you. So that happens when the abuser makes you feel like the pain that you're suffering doesn't really happen. They may even make fun of you for raising the concerns or for crying. They might also make you feel that it's your fault that they were hurting you. And they might tell other people that you shouldn't be believed.
Isolation could be another form. of abuse, and that right now we're all feeling a little isolated, but this is a little different. This is isolation that somebody might be taking away your freedom to talk to people on the phone or on the internet, or they may take your phone away entirely, or not allow people to contact you, or take away your mail or things like that that you use to get in touch with people.
Another form is emotional abuse. And that happens when your partner puts you down, makes fun of you, maybe makes fun of your disability, uses words that people in the community have used against you because of your disability, maybe laughs at you, calls you names, makes you feel bad about yourself, or makes you feel guilty for even asking for something that you need or want.
And another form could be intimidation. Somebody may not hit you, but they may look at you a way that makes you fearful, that makes it feel like they're threatening you, or they may say things that make you feel like they're threatening your children or your family, or possibly even your pet or service animal. And that can feel really scary, even if the words that they're saying aren't meant as threatening by other people. It still could feel threatening to you. So, okay, I understand a little better, but I'm wondering how victims with disabilities can be safe and take care of themselves physically and emotionally.
Well, I think this is really important to remember that this is totally the individual's choice. And so each victim understands what's safe for them and what isn't safe for them. Meaning that something that might work for one person just really might not work for the other person. And so we really have to remember that each victim needs to think about their own situation and know that they know how their abuser, their partner, treats them and what upsets them and what doesn't upset them. And so what can be something that would be really dangerous to do, or something that maybe would be reasonable that could be helpful.
That's a really good point. Do you have any ideas about what someone could do to help themselves to get through this time at home right now?
Well, one idea is to make a safety plan. So a safety plan helps to give you ideas about what to do if things get tough or dangerous. And the safety plan can be many different things. It can be a decision that you make to say that you're the one who's going to take out the garbage every day, so that you get a couple minutes alone outside of the house just to be by yourself. Or it could be that you're going to take a walk with the kids every day, again, so that you can just get outside and be in the air and be away from your partner. Or it can be a plan with a friend that if you text them a certain word, that they know that means that you have to get out and that the friend should call 911.
So what could you do if you wanted to talk to somebody about how you're feeling right now?
Well, I know it sounds like everything is closed, but actually there are a lot of people who are still working who can help victims of domestic violence right now. One way is that our local community domestic violence and sexual assault service providers are still assisting people. Also, our national domestic violence and sexual assault hotlines are taking calls, they're answering texts and emails. So if you can reach out to them, then you can also talk to those people. The National Deaf Domestic Violence Hotline is also available right now. You also might be able to just text a friend to see how they're doing and to let them know how you're doing. Or you can use Facebook Messenger to try to reach out to a friend. Also, depending on what your partner knows about your life, they may think that your disability service provider might not be someone that could give you emotional support or help. But if they are that kind of person, then maybe you can reach out and talk to that person as well, to maybe get support from them. What's really important to remember is that it might not be safe for you to talk, but if you want to connect and it is safe for you, there are people out there who are available.
If you are a person with a disability who's experiencing abuse, please know that there is help available.
You have the right to feel safe in your home.
You have the right to feel safe in your home.
You have the right to feel safe in your own home. Here are some things that you could do to keep yourself safe.
Use your voice.
Reach out for help.
Remember, only you know what's best for you.
That was great. Thanks, Pam. I think Shannon's going to lead us through some discussion and maybe some questions. There aren't any questions at the moment on the Facebook, but we'll kind of have Shannon pose some questions that we might have that we might not have answered.
Yeah, you know, when it comes to domestic violence, does that ever happen with a parent, or is it with a partner? Who does that happen with? Is it always someone in the home?
So domestic violence, as it's defined, is somebody that lives in your home and that you have an intimate relationship with. But a parent would be somebody, if they lived in your home, that you certainly, you know, have some intimacy with, if they're your caregiver, or however that might look. So honestly, it's not about how do we name it. It's if it's abusive that's happening to you, that you're feeling uncomfortable or unsafe, that we don't have to have a specific name. We just want you to know that you can get help, that you can ask for help, and how to do that. If it's a parent that could help you, then you go to the parent for help. If you don't have anybody in your home that can help you, then go outside your home to somebody that you trust. Sometimes it's it's scary to make that step to asking a professional for help. So there's nothing wrong with you asking a friend to help you go ask for help, because sometimes that makes us a little braver when we're doing it with somebody that we care about. But it's important to find somebody that you trust and somebody that's going to be helpful and somebody that knows where to get help with you. If you ask somebody for help and they don't know how to find the help, then both of you might be kind of struggling then how to find that help. So the reason we listed so many on this video is because really there is no one size fits all for people finding help. That it might be reaching out to a friend, it might be to a service provider, it might be to an advocacy organization or law enforcement, it might be to all of them, or it might be that right now you don't feel safe to reach out to any of them. And that is something that you get to decide for yourself. But if you are being hurt, there's always somebody who wants to help you and who cares that you're okay. And that's really what we wanted to make sure of.
Yeah, do you have any advice for people who maybe try to reach out or try to express, you know, that something, you know, is happening, but then, you know, the person they talk to doesn't believe them or says it's no big deal? What would someone do then in that case?
Yeah, and that often is the case because people either, you know, you might reach out to somebody and they're in the middle of a crisis of their own, or they're in the middle of their work day, or they're busy, or whatever that piece might be, or they just might not want to believe that this person who you're talking about could hurt you. I urge you not to stop at that first no, that you then reach out to somebody else that will help you and listen to you. And the only person who gets to decide if it's abusive behavior is you. If it goes to criminal, well, then that's different. But you get to decide if this feels abusive, if it feels wrong, bad, hurtful with words, hurtful by actions, whatever that might be. But you have the right then to talk to somebody who's willing to listen. And if the people around you won't or can't listen, then find the next person or advocacy agency to talk to and get some assistance.
So there is a question on the Facebook.
Oh, good.
And we probably will talk about this a little bit more in the caregiver, but I'll pose it now in case the person has to get off. So if a person is making you feel uncomfortable as an agency worker, should you report them to the agency, call APS, and if a worker is asking for money, is that abuse?
So there's a couple things to this. Number one, and one of the things that we'll talk